Hey soldiers, the European economy has started to collapse. Denmark, Sweden, the UK, Germany, they're all showing extreme signs of stress. In fact, today, the UK economy almost collapsed under the weight of pension funds that would have gone bust without the Bank of England's intervention. Now, this contagion is going to metastasize and spread all around the world. It's already here in America. It's just that here in America, since we have the world's global reserve currency, we get the sniffles a little later. But once we catch a cold, then, the rest of the world, they say, has a flu. Stick around to the end of this video because we're going to show you how this contagion is spreading throughout Europe. And we're also going to talk about what you may want to consider in terms of insulating yourself to the highest degree possible, insulating your personal economy to the highest degree possible, to protect you and yours against what these idiots that run the world are doing.
We gonna print so much damn money, I'm gonna give every single American $1 million. Ain't gonna be no more 1%ers. Everybody's gonna be million percenters.
Now let's start out. Listen, a few videos ago, we talked about the fact that the UK had said they were going to cut taxes and increase spending. And look, I'm a product of the Baltimore City school system, and I knew that wasn't going to work, okay? So you have these fancy titles over there in the UK, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and that sounds real nice, but at the end of the day, him and the Prime Minister are pulling in two opposite directions, okay? So what's going on? The UK government, after a punishing week for the pound and bond market in London, tried to reassure investors that it's working to better coordinate with the Bank of England as Prime Minister Liz Truss's tax cuts and energy subsidies complicate efforts to control spiraling inflation. So she wants tax cuts, and then she wants to give out subsidies for the energy inflation caused by their sanctions on Russia. Now, this is where we get into some regrettable territory, because what she's doing is she's trying to pacify the British street, because they know that winter's coming.
Watch out.
And with winter comes, again, people can survive heat much better than they can survive cold. And if you look at a map of the world, Britain is way up there. Okay, the British Isles are way up there in terms of latitude. It gets cold, and people cannot heat their homes. The government's going to have a problem, and they know that, because we are looking at some serious potential for civil unrest should these problems not be fixed pretty damn quick. And I don't see that happening. None of these European governments want to do what's right with regard to giving their citizens energy. Now, partly, this is a fault of the European citizens, just like here in America, where we put these liberals in office and they got all these pie-in-the-sky ideals, but no financial acumen. UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, said that he was meeting Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey on a daily basis. We are working very closely now, Mr. Kwarteng told a roundtable of executives from major banks. So that's what they're trying to scramble at this point to get out of an obvious mess. If we go over here to a late-breaking article, we find that just today, the 28th, it's a Wednesday, UK market woes threaten economic and political crises. The UK continued to try to stave off financial and economic crises on Wednesday as the country's central bank carried out emergency buying of government bonds. Now, their treasury bonds are known as gilts. And the gilt over there had to be employed. They had to go in and start buying these, like nobody's business. in order to shore up the pension markets. Otherwise, you would have seen these pension funds over there absolutely fail. The central bank's surprise move to spend £1 billion buying UK government debt spurred a rally in the bond market and helped the embattled pound gain slightly against the US dollar, though it was still down against the euro. The intervention to stave off an imminent pension crisis underscored the risk that continuing market turbulence poses to the UK financial system and economy. Now, part of what they want to do in Britain with these subsidies is they want to subsidize energy bills. Instead of just rearranging their policies such that their people won't be subject to £10,000 energy bills, pound being their currency. Instead of doing that, they're still under the spell of little Greta Thunberg.
We can still turn this around. It is entirely possible. It will take drastic annual emission cuts unlike anything the world has ever seen. And as we don't have the technological solutions that alone can deliver anything close to that, that means we will have to change.
And this little girl it's like the Pied Piper in reverse. And she has grabbed all of these European leaders and many in America by the nose and is leading them straight to civil unrest. So that's what's going on in Britain. We told them, you know what? If you know someone in British Parliament, tell them to subscribe to this channel because we told them last week that this wasn't going to work. Also, tell them to subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up. We have a money back guarantee here at the Soldiers of Finance channel. If you hit subscribe and you do not like what you are getting in terms of content, then you are due a 100% refund. So go ahead and hit subscribe. It's no risk. All right, so let's move on over and look at how draconian things are getting in other parts of Europe. Now, over here in Switzerland, now remember, the UK, Switzerland, Germany, these are supposed to be the bastions of Western democracy and, liberalism. Well, Switzerland considers jailing anyone who heats room above 19 degrees Celsius for up to 3 years.
And I get locked up, they won't let me out.
If the country is forced to ration gas due to the Ukraine war. So, 19 degrees Celsius, and if I'm wrong, someone please feel free to correct me, but that's about 66 degrees Fahrenheit for all of us over here in America. 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So I know that in the dead of winter, we put our thermostat on 72. That's looking more and more like heresy. They might, once this comes to America, they might kick my door in because I'm actually in here surviving. The country could also give fines of up to 3,000 Swiss francs. That's 2,667 pounds, roughly $2,600. In gas-heated buildings, water could not be, under these provisions, they don't want to see water heated to more than 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Radiant heaters would be banned, and saunas and swimming pools would have to be cold. Likely that the proposed measures will be subject to challenges and disputes. I would imagine so. But that's what that bastion of liberalism and high-mindedness over in Sweden. And listen, if you Switzerland, not Sweden, Switzerland is doing this. This is absolutely engineered. There's no doubt about it. That you cannot have people in the types of positions like Mr. Kwarteng, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair. You don't have people in these positions. I mean, look, they're not stupid, okay? But they're making moves that are contrary to just basic macroeconomic principles, which should tell you something is afoot. Amid an energy crisis, Germany turns to the world's dirtiest fossil fuel. You know what that is. coal. They're at the point where they're telling their people to go out and chop firewood. Listen, when I was a firefighter, the chopping firewood ain't easy, okay? When I was a firefighter, we had this big storm here in Maryland. It was called a derecho. And I mean, that thing, it was like a miles wide tornado, but straight line winds. It just knocked everything down. And there was a patient that we were trying to get to as a fire department, reportedly undergoing some cardiac trouble. Very serious, right? And the arteries, the roads we had to use to get there were blocked by trees. And we had to break out axes and chainsaws. And let me tell you what, that patient was not the only one undergoing cardiac distress after we finished that. That's tough work, okay? So telling your people to go out and chop firewood in order to heat their homes, that's a big deal, all right? That most people in the 21st century are not equipped or fit enough to do. Power plant manager Bernard Wendt over in Germany. You see the yellow crane moving there? That's where the coal has landed by ship. So, Germany, whose delegation laughed in Donald Trump's face when at the UN, Trump told them that they shouldn't be so reliant on Russia for energy. They laughed. They ain't laughing now, man. They tried to approach one of these guys weeks ago and say, hey, you laughed when Donald Trump mentioned this a while back. What do you think about that now? And he was like, the German equivalent of no habla, whatever the hell language it is you're using. And he, made himself scarce. The coal's destination lies underneath vent in a massive furnace whose heat will spin turbines and generate enough energy to keep this chemical park running through the winter, maintaining more than 10,000 jobs. That is so important because it shows you that coal is being used for industry, okay? And without it, there would be 10,000 jobs lost in this one plant alone. You'll get a kick out of this. It wasn't supposed to be like this. This coal-fired power plant is one of several nationwide that were scheduled to be shut down by the end of the year to maintain Germany's commitment to phasing out coal by the end of this decade. See, you can get up there and you can make all of these high-minded pronouncements, okay?
Blah, 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 net zero, blah, 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 climate neutral, blah, blah, blah.
And you can say we're going to get rid of internal combustion engine cars by 2035. You can say that. But then comes the practical realities of keeping society going, all right? And you see, what we're seeing with this green agenda is it's running headlong into the realities of keeping an economy, a global economy, flowing. All of these people should be thrown out on their asses. And what should have happened was you should have had people come together and say, listen, even if we have 100 years of oil left in the ground, it is still finite. We need to develop renewable energy sources that will power the planet in the same way that the non-renewable sources do today. And those technologies need to advance to a point where they can continue to power this planet as our energy needs grow. So we're going to have a gradual phasing out as the technology advances, okay? But we're not seeing that. We're seeing in California, and other states are considering this, they're saying we're going to phase out internal combustion engine cars. Now, let me ask you this. If your alternative is so much better, why do we need government intervention to force it, right?
Just answer the question, okay?
Okay, it should just take off on its own. No one had to come in and force you to trade from a landline phone to a smartphone. You just said, hey, this is a better deal. There's more technology here. I'm getting more for my money. It's more convenient, okay? And you just did it naturally because the actual item was better. This is not the case with the EV market. And the reason they want you in an EV, let's not be coy about it. The reason they want you in an EV is because EVs are not capable of going from Maryland to California right now without having taking an inordinate amount of time to fuel up or, recharge their batteries. The other thing is the whole battery infrastructure, for the most part, is just not there. You do not have the same battery recharging infrastructure as you do with gasoline cars. And they know that. And even if you did, right, with today's technology, you'll have to spend much more than the 5 minutes you spend at a gas station taking your car from E to F in an internal combustion engine car. So this is all about control, but it's fraying, because what's going to happen in Europe if these people cannot have their homes heated, if you are telling someone that they are facing jail time for making sure their wife and kids do not freeze to death, I think that the pitchforks will not be far behind. So let's end this out as we always try to do. Look, how do you play it? Well, we've talked ad nauseum about you locking in rates to the extent that you can. And we got a global audience. I don't know if this is possible everywhere where we are, heard or seen. But if you can lock in a rate, please do it. Because everything's going up. Inflation is just not holding back. The other thing is, this continues to make certain assets less expensive than they've been in a long, long time. Now, there has never been a more important time for you to understand how to do your due diligence. We're actually coming out with a course the beginning of 2023. We'll have a course available for you to learn how to do fundamental analysis of equities. We're not going to tell you what to buy. What we are going to do is teach you how to develop your own investment objectives, okay, for your specific situation. You're going to walk out of that class with a brokerage account if you don't already have one. You're going to walk out of that class with owning a company, owning a share of something, and understanding why you own it, okay? Understanding the fundamental economic factors that make that company worth buying, all right? It's very individualistic training for those reasons that I just mentioned, but we're coming out with that because we want people to understand this. This is stuff that schools are not going to, they're not teaching the kids this, okay? They're not going to teach it. Colleges aren't teaching this, okay? So, having said that, look for bargains. They're out there in terms of assets that are available. Look for those. They exist in all of the asset sectors: real estate, commodities, of course, paper, stocks, bonds. Be very, very careful, okay? And also understand that it may not seem like it, but now could be the perfect time to start a business depending on the field you're going into. It's got to be something that's low overhead, okay, in these times. But there are going to be a lot of people that are just going to give up on their business. We saw it in 2008 when our real estate business, it did take a hit, but we worked around that. We worked doubly hard to get more business and thrive our way through that. That's why we're not sweating what's going on right now. We know how to survive a real estate crash, okay? But what we saw was, we saw hundreds of people just leave the business because they didn't know how to adjust to a shift. We survived it, we thrived it, and now we got the tools. So this is why, if you're thinking about starting a business, there might be 1,000 people heading in the opposite direction to get out of the door. That's an opportunity for you, quite potentially. All right, guys, check out our latest video on the channel. Well, not the latest. You just watched the latest. Check out the second latest. We're talking about the Nord Stream pipeline. Was it sabotaged? Who did it? How will that affect the global economy? Tell you what, it's going to make things a lot worse for Europe. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.